Hey, how's it going? So today we're going to talk about stop just measuring training completions and start measuring what your C-suite cares about. So my name is Ty Miller. I'm a uh, leadership consulting partner with Lone Rock Leadership, and we help leaders. We develop leaders to deliver results for their organization. So we have a consulting arm of our business where we work with the C-suite, and then also we have a training arm of our business. And today, I was this morning. I'm based in Woodstock, Georgia. I recently moved from New Jersey about a month and a half ago. And I was doing this morning a webinar for about an hour long with an ATD chapter. And it was a virtual webinar. And we were talking about clarity and how to create clarity for managers so that they can sustain momentum throughout the year. Now, before we dug into that, we were talking about this opportunity for L&D and HR leaders to position themselves as strategic partners in the organization. And one of the key things that we highlighted was this big disconnect in the language that senior executives and the C-suite speaks, and HR and L&D leaders speak. And we dug into that, and this one leader actually weighed in, and she shared how this has been one of the biggest things that has really changed her career. It's allowed her to get more budget, to really always be seen as a strategic partner in the organization. And she's like, it's just changed everything in her career. And I think she read a book or she attended something and she heard it and she ran with it. And so, the story she shared was whenever she joins an organization, it's almost like she'll go out and do a bit like of some interviews. Like she'll go out and interview all the senior executives and understand like what is it that they actually care about. And she creates this cheat sheet. And on the cheat sheet, she's got listed out all the different priorities and metrics that every person on the senior executive team cares about. And she said, whenever I am going into a conversation with any of them, I'm making sure that whatever I'm presenting is checking the box on all of those. And I was like, that's brilliant. It really is. And it's so interesting because it's one of the things we often hear from L&D HR leaders is that they're seen as a support function. And when you go from being a function to a strategic partner, it changes everything for you because you're seen as someone that's valuable. You're focused on the things that they care about, and it's like the principle of know your audience, right? Know who you're speaking to, and I feel like those of us in HR and L&D, like we understand that concept, but it gets overlooked so much when we are talking about right, whatever program or whatever we're driving in our function, our role. So it reminds me, personal story. Back when I first got into consulting, I was in college and I had an internship, and this was with my oldest brother's mother. And I wanted to get into public speaking and training. And just through having a conversation with her, I found out that she was a consultant and she had this a big engagement with Cox Media Group where she was training. They were training about 17,000 employees. So she had a group of 10 consultants. And so she gave me an opportunity to come observe and actually co facilitate. And that's how I got my first exposure into training and development. And I loved it. I'm like, this is absolutely amazing. And this was a big shift in my kind of plans when I was in college because most of my life I was planning on being a chiropractor like my dad. And I was really inspired by my dad's career and how he loved helping people. And over time, I realized what I really fell in love with was just the service aspect. And so I really fell in love with consulting and public speaking. And so I had this first opportunity to co-facilitate, and I loved it. And then after that, my whole plans changed. And I never forget having a chat with my mom, and I just told her, "Yeah, I'm just gonna figure it out." And my mom's got a really big technical background, and I remember her initial reaction was like, "Well, what are you talking about? Like you're gonna figure it out." And it was almost like we were speaking two different languages. I'm talking about, "Hey, we're just gonna figure it out," and she's like, "Well, what's your plan? How are you actually gonna get into consulting? Like, what does that look like?" And I'm just like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna figure it out. I'm just gonna work with my older brother's mom and we're going to figure it out. And that did not land right at that time. And I was still in college. And I remember sitting there thinking, like, how could she not understand? Right? How could she not understand? But then what was really interesting is we used to teach this concept. It was from this, um, it's an assessment called HBDI, Herman Brain Dominance Instrument. And it talks about these four quadrants in the brain and how we have these natural thinking preferences. So you have people that are very analytical, people who are very organized, people who are very personable and strategic. And to be an effective leader in an organization, you want to understand who you're speaking to. So that if I'm speaking to someone who is very analytical, well, and my natural thinking preference is more strategic or relational, well, if I don't flex my thinking style and my communication preference to them, it's going to feel like we're speaking a different language. And so I remember taking that assessment. And for me, I was, number one, I was tri dominant. So, relationships was my number one thinking style, then strategic, and number three was organized. And I remember thinking, you know what? My mom is 100% analytical and organized. And the way that I was communicating with her was all relationships, like all just like, hey, we're going to figure it out. I'm going to feel my way through it. And I never forget sitting down and creating a plan for how I was going to get into consulting and what my career looked like. And I sat down and I created like a PowerPoint deck for my mom. And I remember getting done and she's like, okay, I'm in. I'm sold. And so I share that story because it's a principle that rings true in every aspect of your life. Like, know who you're speaking to and know your audience. And so if we're in HR and L&D and we're trying to get more budget and more influence in the organization, well, the thing we want to do is we want to know what our boss cares about, what the senior executive team cares about, so that we can help drive that. And we're valued. We're seen as extremely valuable to them and to the organization. So hopefully that's super helpful for you. If you want some additional nuggets, in the description, I actually have we have an executive report called "Complexity Doesn't Scale," and in it is 5 specific strategies that you could use right now that'll just help you show up stronger as a strategic partner in the organization. So just go down below, you click on that, and you'll be able to just submit your email and get a copy of that. So let me know if you have any questions in the chat. Thanks for watching and have a super day.